Sean Zattel here with one of the best fighters in all of boxing, WBC lightweight champion, three-division champion, one of the best pound-for-pound, Mikey Garcia. Hey, Mikey, the fight's here Saturday, Mayweather-McGregor. What's your take on it?
You know what? Earlier on when the fight was announced, I was not necessarily against it, but I was just thinking it was not a fair fight. It's not going to be more than just a show, but now I'm starting to think that it's actually going to be a better fight than I originally thought, and a better fight than people anticipate. I think Conor's going to come with everything he has, try to rip Floyd's head off, and then, give everything, and I think Floyd will make the right adjustments. Takes a couple rounds, maybe 2 or 3 rounds to make those adjustments, but then takes over and takes control. But I think the fight goes 12 rounds. I think Floyd might even allow Conor to have some success later. And by that, I mean just maybe, staying on the defensive and doing that shoulder roll a lot. And Conor lets his hands go, and the fans go crazy, and people get excited, and Floyd still wins the fight, 8 rounds to 4 or 9 rounds to 3 or whatever. But Conor will have some success, maybe just enough to get a rematch going, because with everything that's going on, with the way people are turning out and all this excitement and anticipation, I think it could possibly have a rematch.
So what changed your mind, Mikey? Did you go back and look at the tape, or what made you think maybe we do got to fight?
Not necessarily the sparring video that went out there from Conor, but I just think Floyd is starting to be a better businessman. And if he feels comfortable enough to get in the ring with Conor once, he could get in there twice. So I don't see it being competitive because Conor's that great of a fighter. I see it competitive because Floyd allows it.
Okay, yeah.
And if Floyd allows it, shit, the fans don't know. Conor fans won't really know, and they think Conor has a chance in a rematch, and there you go.
Sounds like you think there may be trickery this Saturday, like Floyd carrying him, that kind of thing?
Not necessarily trickery, but just Conor's style will be different. Conor's style is going to be switching left and right often, and then coming punch in combination with different angles that Floyd's not used to. So Floyd is going to have to be on the defensive a lot. And just by being on the defense and blocking punches, that allows Conor to have some success. Not necessarily hurting Floyd with punches and real strength and stuff like that, but just keeping Floyd on the defensive gives Conor success. That's already a victory. If Conor doesn't get knocked out, if Conor doesn't get shut out completely, that's already a victory. That's already success. And if Floyd can do that and win the fight, but allow him to have moments of success, that could be a rematch.
But that sounds almost a little fixed, if not fixed, a little choreographed. Not
fixed. But look, you look at Floyd's first Maidana fight. He stayed in the ropes, and that allowed Maidana to have success. It wasn't that Floyd planned it or allowed it because he wanted to do that. He just happened to be on the defensive more than he wanted to on that night. And with the style that Conor brings, punches from different angles and stuff, he's going to have success because Floyd is going to have to be on the defensive. He's not going to exchange punches with Conor. He's not going to be used to getting those punches from different angles, so he's not going to exchange. So he's going to have to stay on the defensive a little more. And that's what I mean with Conor having success. Not that he's going to really land punches and really dominate, but just keeping Floyd in the ropes, keeping him on the defensive side, that's success. For me, that's success. And that's what I'm saying. That could actually land a rematch, just like Maidana did. Maidana had enough success to land a rematch. Floyd didn't stay on the ropes. Floyd boxed and beat him and won very easy.
Well, is it bad if it's a 8-4 goes the distance kind of fight for boxing, because there's a lot of people that are going to watch the fight that don't respect the sport? You know what I mean? So is it important Floyd doesn't go the distance but gets him out of there for boxing's reputation?
You also have to see that Floyd is no longer 2 years younger. Now he's 2 years older, and he started to age. So it's not quite as bad. I mean,
but they're not going to give him the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah, they're not going to give him the benefit of the doubt. People are still going to criticize if it does go that way. Mm-hmm. If Conor wins 4 rounds, clearly wins 4 rounds, people are going to talk and criticize. But I mean, I think that actually might help, because now we might have other UFC fighters jumping in the boxing ring. That might give me an opportunity to get in the ring with somebody and, do the same thing. But Floyd, I think, is still one of the best fighters of this generation. Still is right now, and he'll show it on the night. And even though he is aging, that might allow Conor to have some success. Like I'm saying, I keep saying this. You know, I think he is going to have some rounds of where he's going to let his hands go and land some punches and maybe win a couple of rounds, because Floyd is aging, because Floyd is not the same fighter anymore, and because Conor is such a different fighter. But overall, Floyd wins the fight.
What do you make about Conor, and not all MMA fans, but some MMA fans saying things he's saying, like boxing's half a fight, it's not real fighting, things like that?
Conor has to sell the fight and has to sell it, and he'll say whatever he needs to sell it. But in all honesty, Floyd or any boxer at a high level fighter, championship level, will beat Conor. You know, Conor McGregor's boxing skills are nowhere near what a real world boxing, you know, championship level fighter has. Throw him in there with a different fighter that might not have the same skills, Conor will beat him. But at Floyd's skills, or you know, a top level Errol Spence, Keith Thurman, Mikey Garcia's skills, there's no competition. In a real boxing match, there's no competition.
But that it's almost like not that I don't want to say Conor knows he's going to lose, but in his fans, but it's almost like they're preparing that to say if he does lose to these boxers that it's not fighting anyway, it's just boxing. Does that bother you, or what do you think when they say that?
It doesn't bother me because it's boxing. It's in a boxing ring. You know, you want to prove yourself in the streets, take it to the streets. You want to prove yourself in the cage, take it to the cage. You're a world champion in the cage. Right. You know, but you're stepping foot inside a boxing ring. You know, so you need to, you know, give credit where it's due. You're in the boxing world. Now, you want to prove yourself in a cage, stay in the cage. You know, you want to go to the streets, go to the streets. I don't care. But inside a boxing ring, you know, that's why, you know, these boxers, like I mentioned, rule the ring.
Do you feel like fans got to stop comparing the two, MMA and boxing? Because that's how we got here.
People do compare it a lot. And next thing, you know, you're going to ask us boxers to go in the cage. Because that's what's going to happen. Right. That's exactly what's going to happen. That is two different sports, you know. I don't know how fair of a comparison it was, but I was telling a friend of mine who always likes to eat steak, loves to eat steak. And I was telling him, you know, why don't you eat? I mean, I love it, but why not try other food? You know, try this, you know, seafood. And, oh, I'd rather have steak. Well, yeah, I love steak too. Fuck. But, I mean, you could try other food. You got two different sports. You know, I love watching boxing. I love watching sports, you know, MMA. I love watching it. But they're two different sports. One is not better than the other. You know, it's just two different sports. And your steak could be great, you know, and I love steak too, but you know, seafood is also wonderful and great, you know, so two different things, but you can always enjoy both of them.
Is it really the fans causing that? Because when I talk to fighters, MMA or boxing, they always say what you say. It's not a competition. We're two different sports.
It's not. It's two different sports, and there's a world in each sport. There's space, you know, time for every sport, and there's a place for every sport. But the fans sometimes seem to, you know, intertwine them and interlink them and try to compare what's better. Well, if you take the greatest MMA fighter in the boxing ring, the boxer is gonna win. You know, take the best boxer into a cage, and you know the cage fighter is gonna win. It's two different worlds, so it's not a fair comparison when it comes like that. And this fight, even though I think it's gonna be a little more competitive than people expect, I think, you know, boxing is gonna dominate, is gonna win.
It's just funny, you know. It's all the people that don't fight for a living that are debating about it.
They're the ones that talk. They're the ones that compare, and all of a sudden they're the experts.
Yeah. All right, but before I let you go, Mikey, I got to talk about your career. You're easily one of the hottest names now, and there's so many options for you. Kind of a tough question. Why would you consider fighting Terrence Crawford, a guy who started at 35, you started at 26, but wouldn't you rather fight a Lomachenko or guys at 35 instead of Crawford? Because maybe size will come into play.
Look, when you look at options, we got to be realistic. And I got to be realistic. And I know Terrence is very realistic also. He knows Top Rank and I are probably not going to do business. I've heard from Lomachenko, all this, that he wants to move up, he wants to fight me, yet I don't see him moving up. He's taking on Mariaga.
Maybe Rigondeaux next.
I don't see him moving up. So it's either Top Rank advising him not to move up because it's not business, the right business, or they just don't see them working with me, or whatever. Terrence, I recently heard that he's ready to move up also. That doesn't mean he's ducking me. That doesn't mean, because people will start saying that, and that's not it. He's being realistic. There's other options at 147 where he make big fights. I got to look at what's really available. And if I come down to 35 to fight someone at 35, it doesn't mean I didn't want to fight Crawford. It means that I got to be realistic. I got to take whatever is available. So I think I will stay at 135 for my next fight. But if the right option is available, the right name is available, 140, I'll take a 140. And people sometimes don't even take me serious when I say 147. The right guy at 147, I'll even move up to 147.
What do you mean by the right guy?
Well, a guy that's available. That
you said Danny Garcia.
Danny Garcia might be available. He's looking for a fight, before the end of the year. He might be available. Some guys are not going to be available. Promoters, managers, now networks are getting involved again. Terrence Crawford, he might be moving to 47, but he's locked into ESPN and fighting with Top Rank still. I don't see that very likely. So you got to be realistic, and people sometimes don't understand that, And I can be flexible. That's what I love. I can be flexible. I can move up or down. If one's not available, I'm not chasing him. I can go to someone else. That's what I love. And guys like Lomachenko or Terrence Crawford sometimes might be stuck fighting only certain guys. I don't have to. I can move around.
Well, obviously this is hypothetical, but if Top Rank was willing to come to the table and they said, Mikey, it's pretty much the same money. Who do you want? Do you want Crawford at 140 or do you take the Loma fight at 35? If it were up to you.
It doesn't matter. Whoever pays the most at that point. Honestly,
that's what I said, if they're both the same money.
They're both the same money, but, who's going to do more for my career? If I take on Lomachenko, people are going to say, he was too small. I'd rather take on some bigger challenge, maybe Crawford at that point. Because if I beat him, then that gives me more credibility. If Lomachenko happens to move up to 35 next, let's say the Rigondeaux fight doesn't go through. But he says, you know what, let's go 35 and let's fight Mikey. I want that fight. And they tell me, you want that fight? And it's good money, good purse. Let's do it. I'm willing to take that fight next. I really doubt something like that's going to happen, though.
I mean, that's just so unfortunate. People want to see that fight like they want to see Canelo Triple G. Boxing fans,
They've been talking about that, media, fans. But, sometimes it's the business that gets involved. And I haven't heard Top Rank say any good things about me lately. They've mentioned, they've said some pretty negative things. Yeah. So I don't think they have any interest in fighting their guys against me. Not the guys. The guys will fight. It's the promoter or the manager sometimes that don't do it. The manager has said they're willing to fight, but the promoter, I don't think is in their best interest. I think they don't want it.
Who in your mind looks like it would be the tougher fight, Loma or Crawford?
I think Crawford will be a tougher fight. I think Crawford's size, reach, height makes it a more difficult fight. I think Lomachenko has great skills, but I think the size difference between me and him is just enough. Not such a great advantage, but just enough for me to have that edge. And with Crawford, I'd be stepping up, finding a bigger man, which presents a bigger challenge. But that's what I would probably do. I would take the bigger challenge.
And this is my last one, man. Two-parter. Are you the fighter of the year? And in your opinion, are you the fighter of the year? And what are you going to close out 2017 with?
I don't think I'm the fighter of the year. I haven't really paid attention to who's out there, who, considering fighter of the year. But I think I'll be considered. I'll be mentioned based on the layoff and all of a sudden coming back and moving everything so fast. But I don't consider myself fighter of the year. I think before the end of the year, I do want to have one more fight, and I want a big fight. Like I said, I want big fights. I didn't have any big fights offered this past July at 135. So what did I do? I moved up to 140 and fight Adrian Broner. I want big challenge. I want big fights, and I think that's what we're gonna do before the end of the year. Before the end of the year, that's what we're gonna give the fans another good fight.
Mikey, thank you so much for your time today. Thank you,
bro. Anytime.
Thanks brother.